first name that popped in my head is obviously Marshawn Lynch, because obviously I got to see him play with him. But I mean, playing against him, I remember I was where was he at? He was in Seattle. I was in Washington. He breaks a cool little run off, and I think I got a chance to smoke him because he don't see me coming, man. So he cuts back into me. I hit him, bam, and I took the brunt of he did it my face mask in and everything. I'm like, how did I try to catch him slipping? And he didn't knock my face mask off, messed my face mask all up. I didn't understand it. But he was somebody that you had to play hard every single time.
Welcome back to the Rex Hitter Podcast. My name is Kenny Edwards, co-host with my good friend. We go way back, Lorenzo Lolo Parham, man. What's good?
Going on, Ken, man? Very excited, man. Very humble, man, from all of the feedback we're receiving from the podcast, man. Just two brothers that like to talk and debate, man, and turn it into a podcast and bringing all these people on, great stories and getting the great feedback, man. Very, very humbling, man. And I know with the next guest that comes on, everybody going to love this story, man. I'm very excited for this next guest to bring on. Man, I know you got a lot of stories of this next guest you can talk about. I know you do, right?
So we go back till we was like 9
y'all
years
go
old.
Back. Y'all go back. I remember y'all two together, so y'all go back, man. So I want to hear his story, man. But I remember before he became who he was, he got his start where we all got our start at, man. Oakland Bay Roof for baseball, man. And even at a young age back then, he was on his way to that Bay Roof legend status, man. But we gonna bring him on, let him talk about it, man. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, man. Bring him on, Ken.
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
what's
What's
going
up?
on?
Going
One
on,
man
Zo,
gang.
Hey, Zo, man, I had to tell Ken, Zo, man, like, hey, man, you was the Bay Roof guy, man. You got started in the Bay Roof League just like a lot of us did, man, playing baseball in Oakland, man. And I wanted you to talk about that transition from playing baseball in Oakland to you going on through your high school years, Cal Berkeley, and then being the
Right.
guy you are in the NFL, man. So how was that when you started off playing Oakland Bay Roof?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think my first year I was 5 years old. Baseball was my first sport that I ever played, and something that I really enjoyed. And actually, if you talk to some people that know me well in all the other sports, thought that was probably my most natural sport. I think about Jeff Wheelock, who obviously Ken played for, and you probably know who's the coach out there, and he saw my career and really felt like baseball was probably my best natural sport. Obviously, I didn't really love it like I love football and hoop, so I didn't turn out the way I do. But obviously, the NFL career has been great. But yeah, I played for. I remember Revelations was probably my first team. The old school record store back there on what was that on, like 82nd and MacArthur. They
Okay.
sponsored our first team. Then I went to St. Cyril's, and so that's the team that Revelations turned into. And then from St. turned into Taylor Memorial, which Ken know all about. We smacked
That's a
one of his
Taylor
best teams he
Memorial
ever was a
team.
part of. Yeah.
That,
Taylor
that that's
Memorial.
how me and Zo, bro. We tell that so low. My I think it was Pizza Hut at the time. We was undefeated.
Yeah, it was Pizza Hut.
We was undefeated. And at this time, Taylor Memorial is like, that's where all the kids that got cut, they go play for Taylor Memorial. And and so we ain't even tripping off them, right? We worried about Allen Temple and Kappa. We ain't even worried about Taylor Memorial. Man, Zoe and them came out there and spanked us, man.
Yep, over there at Royal Park, man.
At Royal Park.
Put it on. I had it was my birthday. I had like a triple, a double,
Yeah.
a home run, man. I just balled out that day. But yeah, it was just one of the memories but you think about all the talent that was on those teams. It was really cool because we had Ed Thomas, obviously myself, Josh Dean, Ricky, some guys that just played for me. And obviously the whole crew that was on Pizza Hut. But it was just a lot of guys that excelled in high school and then had a chance to play in college too. That was out there on that field that day, even though they was obviously the much better team.
Absolutely.
I think that's the first time I ever heard him say that.
It don't matter. We was better that day.
That day.
That day. We had Atari Collin on 2 episodes ago, and he talked about how he was in Beirut and how when he went out to go play at De La Salle and stuff, he was still like, Oakland had the most talent in baseball, even though the coaching wasn't there.
Oh, yeah.
Our talent was
Right.
subpar, in baseball.
Right.
You know, so
By
Tari
far.
talked about how he was it by
Yeah,
far, man. So that's
it's not
good.
even close, and that's why you got schools like De La Salle, St. Mary's. They try to go into the inner city and find all the talent. Hey, we'll pay for your education. Come out here. We have the resources, we have the coaching, we got the structure to really allow you to live up to your full potential. And that's why a lot of guys you saw leave the town or go to private schools and stay instead of staying in the OAL because of those additional benefits that you got by going to those other institutions. And so yeah, there's nothing like Oakland. I mean, obviously, you think about all the great athletes that even was in De La Salle. Most of those guys were from Oakland or Richmond or one of the cities that surround, grew up and got their foundation out of either Oakland Bay Bruce, the Dynamites, one of those organizations that we all kind of knew about growing up.
So Zoe, you was I remember, man, you being 10, 11, you was big, right? You was a big kid, and football was weighted back then. Did you get a chance to play youth football?
Nah, man, I couldn't play at all, bro. I was 8, and I don't know if you guys know my older cousin, Tommy Buckley, who also played Babe Ruth, Dynamites, and stuff. But me and him were like, thick as thieves as far as hanging out and always doing stuff together. He was really more like my older brother. And he played, all my cousins played. And I remember being 8, my mom was going to let me play, and I would have had to play with the 12-year-olds. That's just how big I was. And she wasn't having it. She wasn't going to have her baby out there getting beat up and, abused by a bunch of 12-year-olds. But I wanted to play so bad, but never got a chance until I got to high school.
Interesting. So when you got to high school, did they bring you in to come play football, never playing before, or were you coming in to play baseball?
No, I was coming to play football and basketball, really. By that time, baseball, I had kind of lost the passion for it, and so I didn't put the time into it that I needed to be great. I could have probably played, but just wasn't where I really wanted to do. But my uncle Steve, who actually coaches in Taylor Memorial, was also coaching high school football since I was like, I don't know, probably even before I was born. And so he was one of the coaches up there. Shag, who was, one of my cousin's godfathers. So they knew who I was. They was bringing me up there to play football because they knew the ability that I had because of my uncle. So all those other sports were just really allowing me to build a skill set, whether it's hand-eye coordination, agility, anticipation, being able to run with cardio with soccer and some other sports to really allow me to do my best when I decided to play football in the 9th grade. And so, yeah. So that's what I went to St. Mary's football and kind of supplemented with hoop.
What Steve you talking about? Coach Moore? Steve Moore?
Yeah. I know there's a whole bunch of Steves out there, but yeah, Stephen
Shout out,
Moore is my uncle. Yeah. The other coach Steve
shout
was
out,
awesome too. God rest his soul. But yeah,
shout out to Coach Moore, man. He did a good job over there with them guys at NCNL this past year too. Yeah, they did a good job over there too, man. So
right. Yeah, and
shout out,
he's
shout
a
out to
coach for
Coach
life.
Moore.
He's a coach for
Shout
life,
out
and
to
actually,
Coach
I'm gonna
Moore.
have him on my IG live on Wednesday because he was so instrumental in my life. My dad really wasn't around the capacity he should be, and my uncle stood in the gap just like he did with other kids as well. And he's coached so many young men. You've been able to see it over at NCNL. But coaching in his blood, really giving back to the youth and really mentoring young black men is something that he's always had a passion and an affinity for.
Absolutely. So what was it like when you got to St. Mary's as a freshman and get to play football for the first time? What was that like? Did you go straight to varsity? Did they have freshman JV back then? How was that?
Uh, Yeah, no, when I definitely go straight to varsity. I wasn't ready for that. I mean, you miss out on so much technique, being hit, and I played at Concordia Park, with some older kids. So I was ready for that. But just simple stuff like put hands, getting into a real football stance, all those things that you got to really learn and master to be able to be competitive and allow your athleticism to show. I didn't have, and so I started on JV. I was good enough for that. We didn't have a freshman team at that time. I mean, St. Mary's is a smaller private school. We were co-ed and we only had 600 kids, so our pool wasn't that big. But I was an athletic enough to play with the JV team just because of my size and my natural ability. And that's where I started off at. And plus, I couldn't play varsity because I wasn't old enough. You had to be, I think,
15 back
15.
then.
Like Treston,
15 back
yeah.
then.
Like Treston George came and he was 15. He was able to play varsity with us. So I spent my whole year, my freshman year on JV, which I needed. There was a lot of good older guys that were on the varsity that really helped me out. Kefense Henson, who was actually from Oakland too. really helped mentor me, show me the ropes, and I really needed that year to kind of get my fundamentals underneath me before I could take that next step my sophomore year and play varsity for 3 years on at St. Mary's.
Yeah, shout out
I
Confince.
think
He was my host on one of my recruiting trips. He definitely took care of me, and your quarterback Mike Smith. Or,
Oh
was it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Mike, man, I too.
And I'm thinking about some of them athletes you guys had at St. Mary's during your years, man. Even though y'all was a small school, you had the Pocky Gordon, the Treston George, Lorenzo Alexander, Connor Banks, who came to at
Yep.
Arizona State. I was at Arizona State
Eddie
with Connor.
Smith.
Yeah,
Um,
Justin Preston.
all,
There's a
y'all
lot of
had
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
y'all had a lot of things. Did y'all win
right.
lead every year? What league were you guys in?
We were when I was coming up. It was the ACCAL,
Yeah,
Alameda Contra Costa Athletic League, and then
that was a good
it kind
league,
of
man. That was a
switched.
good
Yeah,
league.
it was. I mean, you talk about Richmond. You talk about
El
Berkeley
who
High.
else was
Cerrito,
in that league?
El
El Cerrito
Cerrito,
was really gold. Man, it was just a lot of good football teams and a
Deanza.
lot of good Deanza, and so you had a lot of good athletes that you had to compete against back then, man. And so we won our league. My sophomore year, I know we won because we were 10-0, but we lost in the first round of playoffs. My junior year, we didn't win the league. I think El Cerrito won the league, and they smoked us during the regular season. But then we end up going to the championship game my junior year, but lost. And then my senior year, it switched from the ACCAL to I think it was the BSAL, which was not as good. They didn't have we had like John Sweat came in. It just was some teams that shouldn't have been there. But yeah, I mean, we played against some great talent, and that really helped me. I mean, even if you go back to my Babe Ruth days, I think about you mentioned Atari Collins, the Josh Shavens, the Shamar Cottons. It was just a lot of guys that were older than me that set a standard that I was able to. You always heard cats talk about all the great Scooby, just all these guys that you can just kind of rattle off, and I wanted to be like that. I wanted so it set a bar, and then the same thing in high school. You even talk about, Ken, and he was one of those guys too that set a bar, set a level. And so it was always fun for me to be able to compete with the best of the best. And Ken will tell you this, we used to umpire and we used to find ways to compete.
I
Playing
remember.
whether we was gonna try to figure out who was the best, and so that mentality, that competitive nature that was just embraced was I think so beneficial for me, and it really allowed me to excel in college and really on the NFL level because I was gonna never back down by anybody, but just because of that relationship that we created and that mentality we created, as young kids and growing up.
Yeah,
Do you think
I forgot about them hoop games at Haven Court. In between umpire,
Yeah.
and then we would even compete. I'm not going behind the plate, but let's play for it. You know,
Right, right. Let's play for it.
let's play for it.
right? Shout out to Bill Green, man, for giving us
Oh, that's
umpire
a
jobs,
legend, man.
man.
Billy
Shout
Green,
out to
man.
Bill
Billy
Green,
That's a
man,
Green.
legend right
because
there.
that kind of kept a lot of kids off the streets, man. And
Oh,
we
absolutely.
getting our Monday pays over at Heaven's Court, man.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
think Concordia we getting paid.
Concordia.
Like shout out to Bill Green, man. He
Green, let me
kept a
get some
lot of kids
games,
off the
man. Let me
streets.
get some games, Green.
Very good.
Right.
Hey Zoe, when you was at St. Mary's, did y'all play any OAL schools?
Oh, you shouldn't
Yeah,
have
we
brought that
played.
up.
We played Ojai. Who else did we play? We just played Oakland High. That might have been the only one. Kenny know all about that.
No, that was
How
the year
that
after I
go,
left.
Ken?
I didn't want none
How
of
that go,
that.
Who
Ken?
else?
No, it was the year
Was you
after I
not there that
left.
year?
Zoe 1 year
Oh
after
man, I
me.
trucked about.
Yeah, but my
Yeah,
boy Noah
yeah,
Lopes.
right.
My boy Noah Lopes.
You got Lopez? You got
Oh
Noah?
man,
Man,
he said so. He
that
said,
was a
I
great
think
game, man.
the fish get bigger and bigger the more you tell the story. But I think the Zoe
Oh,
hit him at like the 15-yard line and carried him all the way into the end zone. Shout out my boy Noah Lopes, man.
but
It
yeah,
was a
that's one
mismatch.
of them stat games, man. I mean,
Yeah,
Treston already had probably like 200. They like, hey, put
yeah,
Zoe back there, let him run.
not
Yeah,
pretty.
ran over a couple of cats, man. I still got that highlight. I'm gonna put it on Instagram.
I'm gonna have to ask TG this, man. I'm gonna ask you as well, man. What is it like when you got to come play, a Oakland school in football? Because we looking at you guys at St. Mary's, like, man, these private school kids, we got to come give them the business, and then y'all come out
Right.
and just whoop Oakland High ass. I'm gonna say it. it wasn't hard to do. A lot of people then did it to Oakland High. Shout out
Right.
But what was it like when you had to come back and possibly play against the players you grew up playing with, from Babe Ruth, and you seeing them on the football field now?
Right. You know what? It was really no different. I mean, because we all played on different, whether it was AAU, Babe Ruth, and so for me, it was fun to go back because then you got bragging rights and whatnot, and there was never a fear
Absolutely.
factor because a lot of us was from the inner city that was on our football team, as it was. I mean, you mentioned some of those guys as they were, and we really only had 25 kids, and probably 16 of us that played that were legit all came from those cities, and so it was always fun to go back because we had already had relationships, and so I wish we would have got to play, some of the more premier teams like the Max and the Skylines, but we never could make that happen. But I always enjoyed it because it was always somebody on that team that I knew and wanted to compete against. And now that I had my chance, because like I said, a lot of times some of those guys was on them Pizza Huts, and now I used to take the brunt of it back in baseball. So now I always got a chance to dish it out.
Absolutely. We had another St. Mary's alumni on as well. Shout out to Josh
D
Free.
free.
I mean, we had D Free on here. Shout out to D Free. And he mentioned when he got to St. Mary's, it was a culture shock for him, right? Because he is coming from
Yeah.
Westlake, but you came from St. Cyril's. Did you experience the same culture shock that he did?
No, well, I went to St. Cyril's and I actually transferred to Claremont for sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And
Okay.
the way Claremont was actually a really pretty good school. You think about the OAL and like the resources. It was almost like its own little bubble, similar to like Piedmont, right? So we had really good teachers. We had a lot of great resources, and then we used to move around the school, like change classes and stuff. Unlike maybe like some Catholic schools where you stayed in one class the entire time. So when I actually got to St. Mary's, I was actually well prepared for the at least for the how the academic structure was, right? Moving around from classes, having 6 or 7 different teachers. What was culturally shocking was now you were starting to integrate with cats that actually could afford to go to St. Mary's, right? So St. Mary's is probably like $10,000, $15,000, and maybe Free was talking more. So now you are socializing and hanging out and get to know people from just a whole different part of the Bay Area, right? That we never really saw growing up or didn't have those touch points where mom and dad had 6-figure jobs, health insurance. They had a car when they was a sophomore in high school. And so just that perspective on how life could be. And it was people that were black and white in that scenario. And so I think for me, just seeing that for the first time, talking to people like that, meeting their parents, it gave me a different perspective on what life could look like and what life could be if I, just stay focused and try to and maintain the course. And so for me, it was a really good experience for me.
Hey, a few guests ago, man, we talked about how Claremont put out and had a lot of great athletes at Claremont, man. Like that small school in that area, I want to say the Rock Ridge, College
Rock
Avenue
Ridge,
type
yep,
area,
yep.
put out a lot of great athletes, man. Y'all had a lot of hidden gems in there. I know Oakland Tech, we are mad that you didn't come down the hill to Tech. We would have loved to have had you at Tech with us. Would have made a big difference in a lot of people's careers if you would have got down at Tech, man. But y'all had a lot of great athletes come through St. Mary's as well. So at St. Mary's, did you play football and basketball?
Yeah. I played football and basketball. I didn't. The only year I didn't play basketball was my junior year. My uncle and I wanted to play so bad, but my uncle pretty much made me just focus on football and earn a scholarship, which looking back made sense because you didn't want to hurt yourself. And then a school decided to pull their scholarship, and then it really just allowed me to get my body right and mind right to obviously perform my senior year and earn a scholarship, which I had a lot coming in. But my uncle, his mindset, which I'm glad he had as well, was never get complacent. You can be content as far as be happy with your role and where, but never be complacent at where you are. Always try to figure out ways to get better and grow your game. And regardless if I had 50 scholarships, he wanted me to, go out there with the mindset that I didn't have any, and wanted to continue to prove and improve my game.
Absolutely. So that's the thing that missing with a lot of high school athletes nowadays, right? Because all it takes for them is to get an offer, right? Not even a scholarship. They get an offer, they go out the window, they head sprawl up and feel they don't have to work no more. As opposed to your mentality was, I got 50 offers, but I'm gonna act like I ain't got none, right? To keep that
Right.
hunger going, man. It's times sure have changed when it comes to this,
Yeah.
the hype of an offer, man. That's like crazy.
Right. Yeah, and a lot. that is social media. I mean, I think a lot of that is a lack of leadership and mentorship too, because I'm not gonna act like I was just had it all together. If I didn't have my uncle in my life providing that mentality for me, I probably would have been feeling like, okay, my stuff don't stink. I'm gonna go out and do my thing, and it probably would have got whooped. And so for me, it's more about having coaches in your life that are gonna make you understand that just getting an offer doesn't really mean anything. You got to understand that you still got to continue to work even when you have success, because success is, in my opinion, is worse than failure, because we get comfortable in success, and we stop pushing as hard because we think we're good where we're at. Well, you got kids around the country that's still grinding, eating every single day because they hungry. They didn't get that scholarship. They don't have that notoriety of being a 5-star athlete. And that's why when you get to the NFL, you pull up the parade, All American or whatever it is now, you look at that list, and then you look at the guys that actually become the first rounders or the Hall of Famers. Most of those cats wasn't even on there, know nothing about them. You're like, man, where did this dude come from? And they just continue to work. They grind. They had a chip on their shoulder, and they use that, that motivation every single time. And that was birthed out of failure. And so success tends to let you relax and get comfortable. And I had to, even in the NFL, every year I had to figure something to give me that edge where I rest up, even at year 10 and year 12, because every time I stepped on that field, I wanted to be dominant. I just didn't want to be okay. I wanted to dominate everybody around. But it took that relationship with my uncle. It took guys like Kenny, in my life to help cultivate that spirit every single day. So when I got on my own, I was able to tap into that without anybody pushing me to do that.
But to put things in perspective for some of the youth, the junior high school guys that may be listening, a lot of people don't know Zoe had a professional trainer while in high school. So when he talking about working hard, he ain't talking about jogging Lake Merritt and going to 24-hour fitness for a couple of hours. I mean, this dude was putting in a real NFL workout at 16, 17 years old.
Right. And you know what? And I couldn't afford that either, and I think it takes guys to put themselves out there. And what I found is people are willing to support and help you on your journey if they see that you are willing to make the sacrifices and do it. And so, you talk about Thomas Weatherspoon that allowed me to train with him, right, for free. Yep. He's training first rounders, guys that have become professionals in the NFL, and he allowed me to come in that environment for free. But he wouldn't have done that if I was coming, showing times, coming and complaining about the workouts, not finishing the workouts. And so for you to, sometimes you have to make a way. And so obviously you have to show who you are by the way you work. And then you have to sometimes be humble and be willing to go ask somebody. At the end of the day, the worst thing they're going to say is no. But if you identify the right people, I knew Thomas from, he knew who I was. I just went out and reached, hey, man, can you train me, bro? I really need it. This is my situation, but I'm going to grind every time I show up. And he said yes. And so I made a point that every day that I repaid him by the way I worked out. And obviously I went on to the NFL, and later in life when I was able to do it, I started paying for my services. Then I started paying for it by maybe sponsoring a kid that couldn't afford it on their behalf. And so that's just how the positive cycle started. But it really started with Thomas just seeing how hard I wanted to work and being committed, and then took a chance on me.
And we gonna get into that later about the stuff you do for the kids and whatnot, because you definitely help an organization that I'm really deeply a part of. So we gonna talk about that as well. But I want to talk about your recruiting was like your senior year or your junior year when you started getting recruited and stuff like that, man. How was that like?
Yeah.
Was it calls all the time, phone calls, emails, letters? How was that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. Back then, it was more about letters. Obviously, then we didn't have any social media, and then it would be phone calls, and then a lot of visits. Fortunately, I had built up a reputation as being one of the top D linemen, all linemen in the country, and so I would get a lot of coaches coming to games, coming up to the school during the day, want to talk to me and just to get to know me. And what was cool about that, because I was able to create that environment. Some other guys got on too, and they was able to get scholarships out of that, just like guys had done before me, like you talk about Pocky Gordon and Eddie Smith. And so to be able to continue that legacy of just being, creating a special at St. Mary's was really cool. But it got a little overwhelming at times, just because you have getting pulled in a lot of different directions, trying to figure out where you want to go, what's the best fit for you. Fortunately, again, and I'm gonna keep hitting on this, just having a great support system around you of people that can be the middleman, barrier between you and the coaches. So they're just not always on top of you. So, my mom, my uncle, our head coach did a great job of that, Dan Shaughnessy. And so it was never to the point of being overwhelmed. And I'm pretty sure they kept it at a good distance where I was still able to focus on school and then not get a big head either. So they protected me from myself. But yeah, I got a chance to talk to coaches from, Miami wanted me to come, USC, Stanford. I actually didn't get into Stanford. I mean, I actually was going to go to Stanford, but didn't get in. I went through the whole application process, one of the few schools that require you to do that. And because I had a 3.4 and like a 10.50 on my SATs, I didn't get in. So, but it was they lost, ended up going to Cal, and that was really the only visit I took because I already knew I wanted to stay close to home. I committed to Cal early, and I could have still went to, obviously at 18, I still was going to Miami. I still was going to USC. I was about to go down to Georgia Tech with no even chance of me committing. But again, my uncle stepped in and made sure that I was a man of my word. And so since I had already committed, he said it doesn't look right from a business perspective and as a character aspect of you taking those trips. Now, did I want to go? Hell yeah, I wanted to go. Tear some stuff up. I was a different guy than I am now. You see a much better product. But back then, my mind was only on one thing. You know what that was. And he saved me essentially from myself because I was immature back then. And, obviously going to try to use every aspect, being a big dude. Hey, I'm a man now, going getting treated well. But he understood what that was going to look like for me as far as making a commitment and then not allow and then going to do something different than what I had already committed to verbally.
And I give you props too, because like you said, staying humble. At one point we're all peers in athletics, and then dude out of nowhere, I mean, you was in all the magazines, All Americans, everything, and it stayed the same. Like you would never know it. You would never know it. Still was umpiring as an All American. Still was treating the kids cool. Still was getting scraped by me in basketball. Like nothing really changed. So he definitely stayed humble through it all, man. Kept it level.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, man. I mean I had an ability, and really it was because of people like yourself, right? People like my uncle, people that helped cultivate it. So I understood, and my uncle reminded me this all the time. Never forget where you come from, and not that I ever forget that the people that helped you get to where you're at. And so why would I ever treat anybody differently that was a part of that journey with me? Whether we played against each other, whether we was on the same team, whether you encouraged me, whether you beat me on a game, you were part of that process of helping me become a better athlete, a better competitor, and a better person. And so for me, and for anybody to ever look down on somebody else that was a part of your growth and why you at where you at, I mean, that's just stupid. I mean, it's idiotic in my mind and a lack of foresight. And so that's why I always try to come back. And even when I was telling, let me be on the show, you're like, well, I'm not trying to abuse my privilege, man. You know how we get down, baby. We family, man. That's all it is.
I know a lot of people text you for a lot of things, man. I'm not trying to get thrown in that. But hey, as popular as our podcast is, what do you think will be the feedback from Cal alumni hearing you say you wanted to go to Stanford?
Hold on, but wait, Zoe. Let me ask you a question before you say that, though, Zoe, because now I'm kind of mad because when I got to Arizona State, we had a couple St. Mary's guys there. We had Connor Banks. Yep. We had Ahsoka Muhammad.
Ahsoka, yeah, track. Yep.
Ahsoka on the track team with me. And I'm
still
like,
there?
Why can't we get Evan?
Yep.
Evan, and I'm like, why couldn't we get the fourth one? Why couldn't Lorenzo come to Arizona State? So, Ken, can you imagine Terrell Suggs on one side of the defense, Lorenzo Alexander on the other side of the defense?
Nasty.
Them two dudes been in the league for 15 years now, right?
Right.
I'm for my selfish reason, I wish you would have took the trip because at the time we was the #1 party school in the country at the time.
Yeah, I know that's right. You ain't lying about that. They still out here partying too, even in this COVID joint. So yeah, they know how to party over there at SU. But I'll put it in perspective like this. When my senior year, we blanked both of the Arizona schools. So I think I made the right choice. Goose egg both of them. Went to Arizona first and then went right up to ASU the next week. Goose egg both of them back to back. So I'm sorry about that. But
you made the right choice.
But hold on. Yourself. things work itself out as far as Stanford versus Cal, right? They're both great institutions. You know, without actually having been on campus, when you look back, especially growing up in Oakland, Stanford was more of the shinier thing that was on the hill that you wanted to aspire to. And you think about the time, the Tiger Woods and all the things, they were at a better time. Academically, you think about internationally. Cal is number one public university, but even internationally, Stanford normally is ranking a little bit higher. I wanted to be an engineer. And so it made sense for me not to pass up on the opportunity of going to Stanford. Their alumni association is, I mean, it's tight. I mean, so you come out of there, you're gonna always have access. And I don't know if Cal at that time had that same type of prestige, at least in my mind, when I put them both together. But fortunately, like I said, I didn't end up getting in. After being on campuses, you realize that I think Cal was much more blue collar of just the mindset versus being on Stanford that was a little bit more Beverly Hills style. And I don't know if I would have fit well over in that environment as well as I did with Cal. And then I was also closer to home. I could get home quicker. And so it made sense for me. It worked out. And after the year, Todd Willingham left. And then we kind of took over as far as being the better team out of the two in that Stal versus Stanford game. And so it was a good decision. And, you know, it was kind of made for me, but I'm glad that I ended up going to Cal, and it's been beneficial for me ever since. And you talk about all the athletes that played in the NFL out of Cal doing that at Stanford. That's not even a comparison.
That's a good way to clean that up, man.
Man, but that's
good.
Well, it's
That's
nothing to
control.
clean up, man.
That was good damage control right there.
Hey, man, when you're young and immature, you don't know what's best for you. You know, sometimes God got to push you in the right direction. That's what he did.
Hey, man. But Zoe, how did you feel like, right? So when you at Cal, because you got there before Marshawn and them got there, right? So when you at
Yep.
Cal, and you get Marshawn coming in and fail, and Deshaun Jackson, and y'all bringing this nucleus of talent in there, were you helping them recruit some of them guys that was coming from them? Robert Jordan, was you helping them recruit some of
Yeah.
them guys that was coming from East Bay?
I was recruiting most of them guys. I was recruiting because I was really the first guy. I mean, Atari was there, but he had left. The first guy from Oakland that they had recruited, that was a big time recruiting they brought in. If you think about it, all those guys you just named that after me, besides Deshaun, obviously him being in LA. But I was recruiting all those guys when they came up, the D Grays, the Marshawns, the Robbins. I was kind of the Phillips, the guy that was supposed to bring those guys in, show them a good time. Obviously, being from Oakland, we had that relationship and that history, and get them to come up there. And a lot of guys decided they wanted to come, and I was the guy that was over there recruiting. So it was really cool to be a part of that influx, because that was one of the things I never understood about Cal, that you have all this great talent. And I just think about the guys we let get out. You know, you think about guys like a Maurice Jones-Drew that wasn't that went to UCLA. Man, the guys that went up to Oregon, guys that went down to FC, or you think about DJ Williams who went to Miami. If we was able to keep that nucleus of guys in the Bay, man, we would have won a national championship. There's no doubt in my mind we would have won a national championship at all. And so, you know, I was trying to help, you know, obviously Cal and our coaching staff as far as recruit as much talent as we could get. And then by the time I left, we were the number 5 team in the country. And so it just shows when you invest in the talent that's around you right in your backyard, how special your team can be, you know, with obviously the right leadership once we got Jeff Tefford in there. So it was really cool to be a part of that, that time when they really started focusing back at home in our backyard up at Cal.
Man, and I remember those times, man, when I was seeing even Leon Pope coming in there, right? We seeing all of these talent that was just choosing to stay home, and somebody took a page and said, you know what, let's just stay home and stay at Cal. It is you get into the number 1 public school in the country, even academically, right? So you can't go wrong with that. But you know, it was hard recruiting that time, because a lot of people do want, you know, we get caught up in what we see on TV, right? ESPN showing USC games and Reggie Bush doing his thing. You want to shoot out to USC and all of those things. We have a problem with staying home, and y'all made some great decisions in rebirthing Cal, because even going into this season, man, Cal is stacked with homegrown talent. People can't stay home. They stacked, right? So can't loving that. So what was it like, man, after your senior year and it's time for the draft, man? What round did you go and what pick were you?
I don't even know what you would call it. I didn't get picked. I was one of those
You
kids just
didn't get
standing there
picked.
looking around, man. Man, nobody gonna pick me. No, I didn't get picked. And I was a good talent. I mean, but looking back, I wasn't mature enough as far as having this every single day. And so some of those things I talked about, what I was able to avoid in high school because I had that structure, because I got to college and then thought I was a grown man in a lot of ways. And I didn't push my uncle and my mom away, but they weren't around me as much to continue to provide that structure. I hadn't quite learned how to do it for myself. I did things, just to party and the social life in college really allowed that to be too much of my time, too much of my focus. And so, did I still play well and I was a solid athlete and a contributor to the team? Yes, but it wasn't to my full potential. I wasn't maximizing my ability because when I work out, I'm a party after the game. So Saturday night party and Sunday night party, then show up for practice on Monday. I just tore myself up. The game tore me up, and then drinking for 2 nights tore me up. And now that I'm starting back from scratch, trying to work my way back in it. And so I would do that in the off season the same way. And so I was constantly working against myself. And so it really wasn't to the NFL until I really understood that. But that was the reason why I didn't get drafted, because I took, one step forward as far as the way I was working and the way I was practicing. And then I would go tear it all down, take 2 steps back, going out partying and just living a wild life and not having any focus as far as what I wanted to do, and that was playing the NFL. And so I was constantly, kind of peaks and valleys instead of that steady climb where you just kind of keep going up, create a new baseline, go back up, create a new baseline, go back up, which I was able to master in the NFL, and why I was able to create a 15-year career out of that. But I just learned from what happened to me in college from that point of not getting drafted, being on practice squad, and then being cut a couple of times, being told I'm not good enough. So I had to be humbled artificially or from something else outside of being myself.
Hey man, that's amazing though to not get drafted and to just finish off on what 14-year career. You finished
I got
14 years.
15 in. Got 15 in.
15
Two,
years,
yeah, 2 practice squad years, and then 13 on the active roster.
and a couple of Pro Bowls.
Yeah, I got 2 Pro Bowls, 1 Pro Bowl MVP if we're writing off stats, and then I got one All Pro year.
Ken, do you hear
That's
that?
crazy.
Undrafted,
That's crazy.
undrafted, Ken.
But that's a
That's
message, man. I'm
amazing.
telling you, like, if you really listen to this whole interview, all he talk about is hard work, humility, and perseverance. That's all it is.
And
Right.
And I
being
was
able
with
to
him. I was
bounce
with him
back,
through all
man.
of that, man. I was with him through all of that because I remember just being at Greenman, like after his senior year at Cal, going into the draft. And I'm like, so what they saying? What they saying? Some of the names elude me, but I do remember blatantly Tommy Harris. I remember like it
Right.
was Zoe
Yeah.
and Tommy
Yeah.
Harris, Zoe and
Yeah.
Tommy Harris.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Zoe was like, man, they saying round 1 through 3, round 1 through 3, and I'm like, damn. But that was the closest thing to me. Of
Right.
like, So I'm waiting. And shit, when round 7 went by, I'm like, man, I must have missed a pick or something. And then like Zoe, I'm going to Carolina, undrafted. I'm like, cool, we good. I'm looking at the NFLPA website every day. Then he get cut. I'm like, damn. He like, nah, practice squad. But he just never quit. Kept that same work ethic. Attitude never changed in terms of getting down on himself, at least not publicly with me. But then, man, when I think it was Washington, you got your first active roster, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was on from
Even the
there.
way that happened was crazy too. I was on practice squad in Carolina the year before. I actually, that second year going into it was 2006, going into training camp, I get cut again from Carolina for about 4 weeks, traveling, doing all the workouts and stuff. And then my last workout was with Washington. And I was fed up. I hated traveling across the country. Man, I graduated from Cal. I'm not living this life of just traveling all over the place. And I initially went through the workout, killed the workout, and they ended up going with another guy. But during the workout, the dude that they chose over me pulled his hamstring. And so I was the second pick. And so it wasn't even like I did anything special to get chosen. Again, I told you, God has made a way for me. You need to be here. And then I haven't looked back since. And so from that time of being on practice squad in Carolina, getting that opportunity, I didn't take it for granted. And so I literally took every snap of in practice that you possibly could take. Offensive line, defensive line look team, special teams look team. I did that for the whole year.
I
And
remember that.
then that next season is when I finally got my shot after having to endure all of that. And that was probably the worst time physically. Like I couldn't, we lived in like a condo. And when I got home, I would literally have to climb up the stairs to get into my bedroom. That's how bad I felt, like midway through the season after taking all those reps every single day. But, that's something that you had to sacrifice in order to achieve what you wanted to do. And then out of doing all those different things, the things I didn't want to necessarily offensive look team, give defense, give special teams, my niche in NFL was kind of created out of that process. And so that's when you started seeing me in 2007. I was lined up at guard. I was lined up at tight end. I would play some D tackle. I would play some fullback because they saw out of practice that I had some other traits that they could probably utilize in a more of a package way, in a versatility way. And then eventually I got to play special teams. And I used all that time that I was on practice squad to kind of learn, get my technique right, figure out the schemes in all those three phases. And unfortunately, again, I talk about relationships continually. I had some good veterans, Mike Sellers, Chris Samuels, London Fletcher, James Thrash, guys that helped me become well-rounded in those different perspectives, because each position is totally different. And without their mentorship or discipleship, I should say, I wouldn't have been as impactful or productive without that help. But it really, my role in that one-man gang mentality was birthed out of something that was the hardest part of my career. And so I say that as you talking about young kids listening to this, sometimes you got to go through the fire before you come out of the other end as far as obtaining something that you want to do. And so don't be discouraged about when things don't look right or things feel bad, because you're going to feel bad a lot anytime you're trying to achieve greatness. Push through that, because on the other side, there's a lot of success, and obviously for you to be great, but then also impact people around you.
Also, one of the things you said that I really want the young kids to take from you is you said you graduated from Cal, a Cal graduate, right? So that's big, because even though we have athletes that our kids see, we don't see them actually graduate from college, because their mind, kids nowadays think, I'm going to go to the college, be one and done, and go to the league, right? Because they don't know, or they don't even see too many of them athletes actually graduate from college. So, man, big up to that. I hope the kids understand the importance of what that Cal graduate degree does for you and things like that, man.
It's huge, man. We already talk about the things about our community and the things, how people perceive us. But they can't take that. I mean, and I literally say they can't take that piece of paper away from you. And this is, I remember, I forgot where I was at. I might have been out in Washington still. And, you get to go to a lot of different, like galas, or get invited to different things because you're associated with the team and they want NFL players around. And obviously they just think I'm an athlete, whatever. So I start, talking and kind of interjecting myself into this conversation of professionals. And they start looking at me kind of, weird, like, man, I didn't think this was going to come out of your mouth. And then they're like, oh, where'd you go to school? Cal. Oh, okay. And so it just puts you in a whole different light, when you associate yourself with a prestigious school and they understand that you graduated, and then you really work full person. Because I think a lot of times people just, look at me and just assume, oh, he's just another dumb athlete, that got out of the hood. But when I open my mouth, because I have been able, my mom and my uncle emphasize education, I can walk into any room I want to. Yeah, NFL may give me the step, but I can then hold my own because of the academic that I have and the ability to speak and talk to people, that I think Cal allowed me to be able to be in different rooms and learn so much. And so, man, I would encourage, the academic piece is significant into adding to your natural God-given talents, whether or not you're going to be a first rounder or never play after high school or college. The academic piece just makes you, just more of a well-rounded person, and then you're able to do so much more. You have more tools in your belt outside of just the athleticism. And so I would encourage anybody. And then those tools, as far as your mind and sharpening your mind, you can constantly do that. You can continue to grow, continue to adapt. Where at some point, as you recently see, I retired this year and I'm 36 or just turned 37. That athletic gift is now kind of past me to where I can no longer provide for my family in that aspect. I can no longer go into a locker room and really compete with these young guys. But mentally, I can walk in any room at any time. I can educate myself. I can continue to read, continue to learn, and continue to grow to where I'm always rising up, and that's never going to leave me. And so that's if you have an opportunity to really focus, I mean, I would and build those great habits, making sure that you pay attention to your academics is key. And not necessarily the information you learn, but just learning how to speak, think, and learn and write, formulate opinions. All those things are going to add to you being successful and be able to get jobs and all those other things that we want to have and be able to create to provide for our families, provide for our communities outside of sports and entertainment.
Absolutely, man. Great, great. I'm making sure some kids hear this, man. Actually, this interview is going to be played with an organization that you help be a part of, you help create throughout your ACES Foundation, the Bay Area Seminoles, man, youth
Oh yeah,
organization that you donate heavy to, that I'm a part of. And I think a lot of the kids, we going to have to play this at our next symposium so that the kids can understand someone here that helped donate a lot of money to us and help provide and give back. This is what his struggle was like as an athlete, and this is what his child degree have brought for him. So speak about the ACES Foundation for a second, man. What brought the ACES
yeah.
Foundation on?
Relationships and understanding like where I come from and who's helped me. And so I realized that I didn't achieve any of my success alone. There's so many friends that I've mentioned that have helped me along the way, and people that will continue to help me as I transition away from football. And so, um, the the purpose of ACES was to be that same gap filler that my uncle was, my mom was for me. To be that same support system that I got from men like Ken and Omar Young and Eddie Smith and Kafense and every aspect of my life. I just think about the men and people that have really helped me grow. I want to be able to come out of young people, especially in the inner city, to really help them reach their full potential. Because we all are gifted, we all are blessed with greatness, but sometimes, or a lot of times, we need that guidance of resources, and then we need that guidance of mentorship to make sure to help us stay on that right path and not be uh, distracted by those things that are not going to be legacy giving or not going to be beneficial to our lives in the long run. And so that's what it does. And so, like you said, I try to provide resources, whether it's financial, as far as what I've done with Bay Area Seminoles, with you, Treston, Lamont, and really seeding or sowing into y'all organization because you guys are doing great work. Or is it giving of myself when I'm out doing camps, mentoring young kids, and trying to pass on the wisdom that I learned that allowed me to be successful. And I just think it's key, whether you have a foundation or not, that you make time. Obviously, starting at home with your own kids. I have 4 kids that I'm trying to disciple, and my wife that I'm trying to lead as far as being great people and give back every single day. But then extend yourself, and it doesn't have to be a whole organization or a whole football team, by identifying whether it's a niece or nephew or maybe your neighbor down the street that needs that additional time or additional love or support, like my uncle gave to me because he had his own family, to fill that gap so that they can get over the hump and alleviate a lot of the pit holes or road bumps that you can find in the hood. And so that's what it took, and that's what ACES is all about, really being a wraparound type of style of program to help people realize what they already have inside of them and then help them to develop it and cultivate it.
So one of the great things, man, that you and Marshawn Lynch does, you Cal guys, these Cal guys are
Yep.
really active in their communities, right? The kids are able to see you guys, right? So when we was growing up, it was easy for us to mess up because even though we had NFL dreams and goals, we didn't see people we knew that went to the league, right?
Right,
So what we saw
right,
was we saw the people that was hustling that had a whole bunch of money, and that was easy to
right,
turn to us to go mess up because we didn't see you guys, but you guys are at the camps, at the games, doing your own camps. Marshawn working out and practicing, man. So that's a good thing because you guys get to see the tangible. Like, okay, there's somebody that went through it, made it to the league,
right.
and he's here in my presence, man. So it's a good thing that you guys give back to them kids as much as y'all do, man. Even track, you even give back to 3M Track Club. I think you got an auntie
Yeah.
that was on the board at 3M,
Yeah. I
and
grew up with 3M, man. Yeah, it's a lot of both my aunt is my uncle Steve's wife, and so She sat on the
Okay.
board, Coach Pittman, and it's like, I mean, it's a ton of talent that came out. You think about the Stewarts, my cousin was actually pretty good as well. You think about T.J. Ward and his brothers and stuff like that, and so there's a lot of talent that come out of there. And I grew up going to those track meets and watching Coach Pittman and watching. He was another one of those men that was he was out there coaching track, but he was really building young people up for life, successful in life. And so, like I said, anytime I see somebody out there sacrifice that reminds me of my uncle and what he did, if I have the means, I'm gonna try to support. And so when he asks, hey, Zo, can you help support the track team or can you buy this? If I got it, you got it. And so that's just the way I've tried to live my life because so many people did that for me growing up, you know, because and I tell this quick story. You know, I went to St. Mary's. Like I said, I couldn't afford to go to St. Mary's, but my tuition got paid. My uncle donated his stipend. I had to work in the summer up there, like janitorial work and cutting the grass and painting and scraping lockers, doing all that type of stuff. And then another gentleman who I still don't know today because he wanted to kind of just stay in the background paid the rest of my tuition. And so when you have people that do those type of things that give you an opportunity to give you a great foundation that's going to allow you to be successful, for me to now be in the league 15 years and accumulate the resource and the relationships and to not get that back and not to find opportunities to sow to the next generation, it'd be shame on me. And so, but you know, at the end, that's what fueled me. That's where my passion comes from because it was done for me. It was somebody that showed the example. And so it's not how great I am. It's really how great somebody else was and showing me the right way to go about being a man and giving back to your community.
Yeah, and I think about some of the men that we all grew up under, especially at Greenman,
Yeah.
and even like rec league basketball. I'm thinking back like Coach Mack, Coach Jeff, your uncle,
Right.
Coach Steve Webster,
Yep.
Eddie Abrams, all them. I
Yep.
wouldn't
Mobile.
necessarily
Yep.
yeah, Coach Mobile.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Some of the Mobile and Eddie, they actually were baseball players, but a lot of them were really good at the sport, but they were building men. And a
Right.
lot of the stuff a lot of the principles I still live by. One, I give it to my dad. My dad was there, consistent.
Right,
My
yeah,
life's
yeah,
still there to this day. But outside of him, man, it was a lot of the coaches. You know, work hard,
Yep.
show up every day. Don't let the man in front of you outwork you. And we just had some Coach McIntyre. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, man.
There was a
Coach
ton of great
Everett
coaches out there,
Cleveland.
man.
Yeah, it was like those. They built men.
Yep.
So a lot of our success,
Yep.
we really gotta give credit to those men.
Right.
And one of the things
Exactly.
I tell these kids that I coach, like you're not going to know the appreciation of this right now
later.
until you get older, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
Coach Lowe might be the hardest turn. I'm gonna shout out to Coach Pittman, right? Because I took Coach Pittman's track coaching style and brought that over to football, where I'm extremely a disciplinarian coach because I don't want you to get big headed. I don't want you because I know where that leads to, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I tell kids, you're not going to appreciate this until you get further down the road and be like, hey,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what? This is what Coach Lowe was telling me back when I was 9. You
Yeah.
know, so
Right.
definitely shout out to all the coaches. Ken, you coach basketball. You was coaching basketball. Shout out to all the coaches that take that time and sacrifice because we pull a lot away from our families when we go to do this coaching, right? I
Right.
remember when I was playing Oakland Bay Roof, man, I got picked up and dropped off every day by my
Oh,
coach, and I'm
yeah.
realizing he went out of his way to come
Yeah.
get me.
Right.
And then, got me
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
and then he paid for me. Shout out to Coach Jackie Wilson, man. Coach Jackie
Man,
Oh,
was
Jackie,
kind.
yeah. I won a
yeah.
championship
Oh,
in
yeah.
13s with Jackie.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Jackie, man.
Birds
He
War.
paid my way and everything to play, pick me up every day. Really good friends with his son and nephew still to this day, man. So Zoe, I want to throw the politically correct Zoe out the window for a second. We need
North
we need
Oakland
the DC Zoe to leave real
Zoe.
quick.
We need North
I
Oakland
need you to
Zoe.
tell me whether you was in high school, at Cal, or even in the league, somebody you played against that you considered was a dog. Like, you know what? I got to bring this fight every time I see him on his field. I know it's gonna be some trouble with him.
Ooh, man. You talking about, you said on any level?
On any level where you knew, like, hey, you know what? This person gonna bring it.
Uh,
Let me strap my chin strap up.
I mean, it's a couple of guys. The first name that popped in my head is obviously Marshawn Lynch because obviously I got to see him play with him. But I mean, playing against him, I remember I was where was he at? He was in Seattle. I was in Washington. He breaks a cool little run off, and I think I got a chance to smoke him because he don't see me coming, man. So he cuts back into me. I hit him, bam, and I took the brunt of he did my face mask in and everything. I'm like, how did I try to catch him slipping? And he didn't knock my face mask off, messed my face mask all up. I didn't understand it. But he was somebody that you had to play hard every single time that you faced him. Another guy would be man, what's my man? He's in Baltimore now. Running back in Baltimore was in with the Saints. 22,
Ingram.
Ingram.
Alabama.
No, no,
Ingram.
Ingram. Yeah, I was
Ingram.
about to say Ingram. He's another guy that you got to bring it every single time. Low to the ground. Frank Gore's another one. Those three guys that I think about are the guys that you had to bring it because they would hit you, turn their legs, and you just had to bring it every single time. And so those are always battles, always games I look forward to when I got to play probably one or three of those guys. In high school, man, I'm getting old, man, so I can't even think of names, but you guys can help me out.
I
El
feel like you were
Cerrito
so
running back.
dominant, it probably wasn't anybody who was really
Yeah,
playing
but El
well.
Cerrito, had a really good running back. And he's a year ahead of me. I can't think of his
David
name.
Rose,
Not D Rose, but Terrell Roberts.
Terrell
You had to bring it
Roberts,
every
yeah.
Oh,
time you
T.
played
Roberts.
him.
Yeah.
Rest in peace,
Playing
Terrell
against,
Roberts, man.
yeah,
Terrell Roberts was
right,
killed
yep,
last year, man.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Terrell Roberts, man.
So he was a monster. Um, Chris Dixon, playing at Richmond because we used to play at Richmond all the time. Him and Courtney Brown used to kill it. So you had to bring your game when you played against those guys. And then Richmond always had just athletes. They had this quarterback. He was left-handed. We called him Red, and he could be anywhere at any time. He was one of the first mobile quarterbacks, and he would throw the ball 60 yards, or he may score a 60-yard run. And so
Wow.
those are the kind of the guys that kind of pop out at me on those three levels that you always had to be ready for and had to bring your A game every time you played against them. And then one guy, I'll give him a shout out because he baptized me as a young boy when I started to feel myself as a sophomore up at St. Mary's. Omar Nazel, we scrimmaged against Skyline one
Oh,
year. He was
It's the
playing
second
outside
time
backer.
that name came up.
Yeah, he
yeah.
baptized me, man. I might have been playing tackle, inside backer. The tight end blocked down, and we are kind of doing like a TG scheme where the tackle would pull and go try to trap or capture the outside shoulder of the outside backer. Man, he put his paws on my chest and extended and put me about 5 yards in the backfield. I'm kind of scooting back on my butt. Eddie Smith, what you doing, Zol? What you doing? I said, that was the first and last time that I ever got embarrassed in high school like that. After that, I mean, every time you was gonna get my best. I didn't care who you were because I was never gonna be embarrassed like that. But yeah, Omar Nazel, he was that beast that really set the tone. The guy that going to SC that I wanted to be better than him. So it was always trying to figure out guys that I could be better. And when I came out, people were gonna know me better than him. And so he was a great athlete. Obviously represented the Bay the right way, and somebody that really baptized me at a young age.
Man, somebody got to put us in touch with Omar because Mario Vital said
We,
Omar was the toughest guy he
we
ever
might
played.
we got to get O on, man. Me and O
Yeah,
got some
yeah,
crazy
he's a
stories
monster.
too, Ken. I'm gonna save my Omar stories to when we get him on. All
Well,
right,
he's
I
a
gotta say that.
thespian now. He's on the
Yes,
big
yes,
screens
he's
now.
out there
So
doing his
shout
thing,
out
right?
Omar, the actor.
So Zo, hoping this don't go viral, and you end up on Undisputed tomorrow morning. Let's get Vegas and start talking about you call somebody overrated, right? On what
Oh,
level
that'd
did
be
you
good
go
too.
against someone and you was like, you know what? Man, this guy was overrated, man. He's not worth all the hype. On any level you played against,
Tommy
Oh
Harris.
man.
Tommy Harris.
No, he was a monster, man. He was a monster. Oh man, who was overrated, man? Oh
We need to hear
man, this
somebody
is a
on
talent
every
cat.
level. Give us one person in the league, one person in college, and one person in high school.
Man, you ask me something like that? I ain't never. Oh,
And not that they
who
was
was
garbage.
overrated?
It's just like
Not
he
that they was
wasn't what you
overrated, but they
thought.
put it like this: they were a 5 star, and then you like, man, this guy should have been like a 3 star. He shouldn't be
Right.
a five
Yeah,
star
there's a
just
lot of
yet.
them guys though, man. Tyler Ebell was probably one
Oh, I
in
forgot
high
about him,
school. He was
UCLA. Yeah, I forgot about him.
he was all world. He played in them all like 6-man, 7-man football league, but he had all the yards in high school. When he got to UCLA, he faded out, faded away.
The running back?
Man, the running back. He was a running back.
The running back.
Yep.
Yeah. Number two.
Yep.
Little dude. Yeah. He came from a
Yeah,
6-man,
man.
7-man high school.
Yeah, he was playing some weird type of football. It wasn't like
Okay.
11 man. It was something different.
Okay.
Man, I don't want to hate on my guy, but they kind of hated on me, so I'm gonna hate on my guy. They came out of my own school. Um, what was it? Leon Drummer? Is that Leon's
Oh yeah,
last
he
name?
went
He's
to
a
St.
St. Mary's.
Mary's.
He was
Yeah.
St. Mary's
Yeah.
tackle. He was behind me, and so after I got up out of there, his mom, I guess they were had set the new standard. Nah, he didn't have no heart. He was soft. Got the cow faded out. I brought him up there,
Oh,
soft.
he went to Cal too.
Yeah, man. He was one of those local guys that I brought up there. He was supposed to be the newer and better version of me, so I thought he was, and he wasn't.
Mm.
Let me see. College, man. Who was it? Man, who had a lot of hype coming out, and it's a tough guys, man. Because I pretty much beat out all the first rounders outside of Thomas Davis and Aaron Rodgers are no longer playing. But it was something. See, who was who wasn't? He went to OSU.
Oklahoma
Okay.
State
White
or Ohio State?
defensive end. I think it was Oregon State. He might have been Oregon State or Oklahoma State. Got drafted by Miami. I gotta think of this dude's name, but he was supposed to be all this, but he didn't last in the league long at all. Maybe 2 or 3 years, but he couldn't. He was done. Man, I can't think of his name,
I'm gonna be
but he
somebody
was
in college.
trash.
I feel was. Remember the
Oh,
guy, man, who played linebacker for that Oklahoma State team? I mean, Oklahoma team with Tommy Harris. Who was the linebacker? White guy with the neck roll. Teddy. Oh, can't help me
I
think.
know, but it's on the. I know, but I can't. I
I
can't
gotta ask
call it.
you gotta
Mikey.
give me his
Mikey,
name. It's a
no.
good. Oh yeah, if I talk
I'm
to yeah,
watching
talking
him.
about
Mikey
Ohio.
hit.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't even know, man. It's Ohio State always had some linebackers to come out that were never good. I mean, it's a whole bunch of guys, man. It's hard for me just to pinpoint one guy that was just trash. There's a whole bunch of them. I mean, I'm serious. It's a lot of guys that just weren't good. I never focused on them though, because they weren't who I was chasing. So I can't even think of anybody that was just trash that that's on my mind at least.
Right, right.
What about in the league? What about in the league, man? That people that made it to the league and they like, hey, you know what? This dude went first round, but I'm killing this dude as an undrafted free agent, man. Any of them guys?
Nah, man,
What's
not
the
to
boy
come to
name
mind.
that
You got
went to
to
Stanford?
next
What the boy
yeah.
name that
Next
went
time
to
you got to.
Stanford that was getting bullied, Ken? What the boy name that went to Stanford that was getting bullied by
Oh, talking about the lineman. The
the
lineman that was
lineman that
getting
was
bullied
getting
in Miami by
like,
Oh yeah,
Incognito.
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
I don't
him.
know.
So
Jonathan
what was
Martin.
it?
Jonathan
Jonathan
Martin.
Martin.
Martin, yeah.
Yeah,
When
Jonathan
them dudes
Martin,
when
man.
them first rounders flame out, do it be talent or do it be focus?
it's most of the time it's focus. It's not too many guys that get drafted in the first round that can't play, but they don't work hard or they think they good as what they were in college. So most of the time it's focus. But I honestly, I mean, there's a lot of guys that do that, so I don't tend to focus on them. I do remember what your guys, Ken. I remember a guy I dominated. What's your guy's name? Career. He said I ended. What was your man? Big boy. Play guard, lineman when you was in your agent days.
In college?
He was with the Redskins. No, no, no. He played in the league with me. Washington, big baby Huey looking cat, black dude.
Where I know him from.
You was remember when you was doing your agent joint?
Yeah.
You represented him. I can't think of his name.
Charles Campbell?
Big
Not
lineman.
Charles Campbell.
No, no. Big lineman. Soft, pudgy, soft. Good dude, but just wasn't good.
I
He's
can't
better than
call
what
it,
he
bro.
thought he was.
You talking about
Oh
20
man,
years
you
ago?
get too old. That wasn't
Yeah.
20 years
About
ago.
20 years ago.
But
yeah,
yeah,
we
man,
get too
it's
old.
hard for me to hate on certain people. I mean, I have to really think about cats that weren't good. Most of the beef that I have is with guys that you wouldn't even know about already when they thought they were better than what they were, and you had to go out there and show them that they weren't that good. And so it's not.
Ephraim Salam?
It's
Ephraim Salim? Was it
No, they ain't
He
it. But
played.
like this year, and I don't know cats' names because I don't take their name after I dominate. But it was like a cat from Tennessee, a young boy. Because everybody tries to come in and try to knock me off of my pedestal because my reputation precedes itself when it comes to special teams. And so every year you get one of these young cats that come out here and thinking they're going to do something. And so I had to hem him up. He's number 44, 45 for Tennessee. And so he talking trash the whole game, and I'm on punt return. And so, he's trying to get out and cover. So I just hit him up at the line of scrimmage. And he maybe gets down the field 10 yards, maybe. And so that's what I take pride in, when the cats are just talking trash and I just got to lock them down and make them shut up. And so after I did that, I just walked off and flexed on him. And he was so mad. He couldn't say nothing.
Hey man, you know what? So from now on, when I see a list, I'm just gonna hit you and be like, Zoe, you got to tell me he overrated. I just watch him give up 4 sacks this game. I'm just gonna have to hit you. You might not remember it, but I'm gonna hit you. You might not remember. It's been a long time, man. Hey Zoe, man, I see a lot of trophies back there and helmets, man. We haven't gotten you a Seminoles helmet yet.
I know I got a Seminoles jersey though. I got a number 2 TG.
We got to get a helmet up there to put up there with them amazing helmets you got, man. We got to put
Yeah,
one up there,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Please do, man. Please do. I definitely put it up there. I got one from Buffalo with the high school team, South Park Sparks. That's up there too that I work with. So yeah, you give it to me. I'm gonna put it up.
Man, going into retirement, man. What's the plan? What you gonna do with the time now, man?
Yeah, man, I got a lot of stuff that's kind of on my mind. But the first and foremost is just really trying to build it around my family. So I want to have a lot of flexibility in whatever I'm doing because football took so much of my time and energy that now it's about coaching, right? Coaching my young sons in their sports, being there for my daughters, and really just being a great dad as best as I can, and as well as a great husband for my wife, and allowing her to do things now that she wants to do. She's going to become a real estate agent and building her own business and so on, being flexible on whatever it is. But want to get into broadcasting, something that I definitely want to pursue. I have some local opportunities here in the Arizona area. Kenny got linked up with a couple of my guys to find this program that you guys are running your podcast on. That's a network in Chicago called The Stadium that I work with. And right now I've been doing all that on Zoom or on this mix. What is this thing called? Mix Vix, Vix Mix, V Mix. Been doing the shows that way. Consulting with the NFL, whether it's the Bills, doing some NFL PA work. I mean, I just have a lot of stuff. Obviously, serving is always going to be at the forefront of that as well. And so what I'm trying to do right now is, with this time that I've had off, is really build a plan that's going to be impactful. And so that I'm not just doing a ton of stuff, but I'm doing stuff that's fruitful and impactful. And if it's one or two things, it's one or two things, but really trying to dial that in as I transition. But currently doing COVID, I've been doing some stuff, reading a lot more, been learning how to play the piano, just different things outside of the box that I normally didn't get to do when I grew up, and then also to continue my learning as I transition. So when I get out of COVID and get out of this, we get kind of back to life as normal, whatever that's going to look like. I have more to offer than when we went into this time. And so that's kind of where I'm at, just on this learning experience, trying to figure out how I can help people, especially as we think about the health of our country as it is, right? You think about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, the most recent.
Rashard Brooks.
Yeah, it's a ton of cats, right? A ton of people, and this is just the latest thing that's going on. And so, really trying to see how can I leverage the platform, the resources, the relationships that I've created. But to help create this change, whether that's speaking truth to leadership, continue to help our youth understand how to navigate the system that is intentionally trying to incarcerate them. That is kind of pushing its way, I think, to the forefront of what I want to do amongst those other things that I kind of referenced. But like being in the broadcasting world, that just gives me leverage and relationships to continue to make that change, to kind of keep that NFL platform. And so a lot of things that I'm doing are strategically in order to reach a means of changing our society and really the Black community as we know it, and fight against a lot of these things that have been put in place to keep us fighting each other, to keep us poor, and to keep us from, really making an impact on this community the way we should, or in this world the way we should.
I can see you doing the broadcasting. We got to get you and
Hey,
Kirk in the booth together.
Oh yeah, yeah. Kirk is here. That's another guy, man. There's just so many cats, man, that we grew up with. Kirk is doing this thing too. Josh Dean is doing this thing. It's just so many guys. It's crazy, man. This is cool that y'all doing this podcast too, man, and just bringing light to the talent, plethora of talent that came out of the Bay, and that really made his mark and successful, and is still doing his things at all ages.
You know what would never happen, but would be 100% extremely hilarious? Marshawn Lynch as a color analyst.
that got it. You can't be on TV, Ken. You
Yeah,
can't be on TV. All
had to be on
sponsorships are gone.
cable.
He done went through the whole taking care of his
Yeah.
chickens.
Yeah, nah,
Hey,
nah,
Zoe.
yeah, man.
So we want to thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it, man. Really depth. I wish my son was here, but when I tell him who I had on the podcast today, he's going to be excited. He got two favorite football players. First is Odell Beckham Jr. You know, all the kids,
Okay,
everybody
okay,
like that. And the next one is Lorenzo Alexander, right?
okay. I'll take that,
He,
baby.
he
Yeah.
got the he got the sign, or he got the sign Lorenzo picture in his room on the wall, man. And when I tell him Lorenzo was on it, I he don't even know you went to St. Mary's yet, right? Because he only got two schools he want to go to for high school, which is Bishop O'Dowd and St. Mary's, right? So
No, not
he gonna
Bishop
try to
O'Dowd. It's
convince
easy
he
choice,
gonna try
baby.
he gonna try to convince me now, Dad, Lorenzo went to St. Mary's. I can go to St. Mary's now, man. But after I let him hear, because I got a hard time really getting to him because of what he see, even though I'm telling him all these things.
Right.
But when this
Yeah, you
guy's like,
dad.
when you come reiterate the stuff that I tell him, it resonates more because he heard
Right.
my speeches 100 times, right?
Right.
So now
I
I
get
got
it.
to tell him like the Cal degree, the graduate. He's in at St. Mary's with a 3.4 GPA, 1050 on SAT. You know, top two schools
Yeah.
to go to with Cal or Stanford. Who can be mad at that, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's
Right.
gonna
Right.
help.
How old is
It's
he
gonna help
now?
my people. He'll be 11 next month.
Okay. All
So
right. Well,
he's
you
11.
tell him, man, and this extends to you, man. Anytime he want to come out and chill with Uncle Zoe, do a week of training or whatnot, I'm always down for that, or doing anything
Always,
of that nature.
always.
So yeah, yeah, he
No,
got uncles all over the place.
I didn't see Lorenzo's house. Trust me, Prince will love it.
Where you at, Zoe? You in Arizona?
Yeah, I'm
Zoe, you
out
in
here in
Arizona?
Paradise Valley. Yeah, yeah, Phoenix.
That's what
You
I would
know,
call the
hey,
house too, Paradise Valley.
hey, Ken, you know I've been trying to get back to Arizona for 10 years now. I've been trying to get back,
I'm gonna
man.
become house guest. I ain't leaving.
Yeah, I've been trying to get back,
Man, go and
man. But
come out, man. Yeah,
huh? Yeah, so we
they're
gonna
going to come
definitely
out.
have to come out and check you out, Zoe, man. Appreciate you coming on, man. Give us some final words before we sign off, Zoe.
You know what, man? I appreciate you guys coming on, and man, I just want to encourage everybody right now during this time to obviously have those uncomfortable conversations, and then past that, man, you allow this energy to thrust you into what's next, right? Those conversations, that the understanding, that perspective that you gain to figure out how we can change the oppression that's going on in the Black community. So whether that's encouraging people to get out and vote, showing them how to get involved in politics, whether that's giving back to the youth, whatever you have a skill set in that's going to really help change our community, and change our world as far as when we look at equality. I want to encourage you to get involved. Whether that's holding somebody that says something racist accountable, get involved. We cannot no longer stay silent. We no longer can just stay in our lane. We have to fight this thing collectively and move forward together if we really want equality for everyone, if we really want all lives to matter, right? And so we need to make sure that we are as a part of this Black Lives Matter movement, this equality movement, um, to really help create change. And the only way we're gonna be able to do it, I think, in a real way, in a faster way, is doing it collectively. Black, white, brown, yellow. I don't really care what you look like, but you got to be pushed forward towards equality.
Hey man, thanks a lot for coming on, Zoe, man. Shout out to your Uncle Steve Moore, man. Appreciate him, man. for putting the battery in your back to be amazing, man, and keeping you humble and grounded, man. So shout out, man, and really appreciate
All
you
right.
coming on, man. Take care,
Yeah,
man.
anytime.
Hey, Nike,
Man.
before
All
you
right.
sign off, what time is your Instagram live on Wednesday?
So it's IG Live. It's at Lorenzo underscore John. And then we're going to go on at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's noon West Coast time.
All right, man. We go tune into that, man. Appreciate you, Zoe.
All right.
All
Appreciate you
right, thank
guys.
you, man.
Later.
That's a dope one, Ken.
Hey,
That's a dope one, man.
he came through
Zoe, the
for
truth,
us.
man. Can't come way to come through for us, Zoe, man. That's the truth, man. So definitely appreciate you, man, getting Zoe on, man. But shout out, like I said, shout out to Steve Moore and shout out to all the coaches, man, that keep these kids, keep people like Zoe humble, man, keeping them grounded and being the middle man that gives them that structure, man, to make sound decisions, right? Because it's easy to say, you know what, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna use my fame, my high. Yeah, you know what high school fame do for you. You can
I had a
easily
little
abuse
bit,
that
man, but I
power,
was no
man.
Low Breeze, man. Low Breeze had
That
Low Breeze had the city
the
cracking.
abuse of power, man. You don't want to do that, man. So definitely you need the Steve Moores in your life for that,
Yeah,
man. So
yeah,
thank God, man.
yeah.
Can't wait till this episode drops and the fans can hear Lorenzo Alexander.
Well, I think the biggest thing was something you said that I hope a lot of the kids, just put it in your back pocket. What you said earlier was you will not understand it now, but you're gonna understand all the lessons later. So just everything, your coaches, your mentors, your fathers, your grandfathers, whoever is the man or woman or in your life, it's okay if you don't get it now, but just put all that stuff in your back pocket. It's gonna rear its head later on in life for the better, and you're gonna be like, man, I'm so happy that person took time out to sow into me, and now I understand exactly what they're saying because I got 4 kids now, so. They
Right.
man, in one ear and out the other so fast,
Exactly.
But I hold on to it knowing me, like I wasn't listening when I was their age either. So, but now at 38, oh, everything coming back. So that was
Exactly,
big.
man.
That was big what you said, man. But man, what a hell of an interview. We thank you guys for tuning in, man. We hope that you guys are enjoying it just as much as we are. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Rec Center Podcast. Check out our Instagram, the Rec Center Podcast. We got things going on there all the time. I think we just posted something today showing you guys that, man, me and Lo been doing this debate thing, this high school talent thing for a long time. We just now brought it public because we have a platform. But thank you guys for tuning in for the Rec Center Podcast. I'm Kenny Edwards, Lorenzo Lolo Parham. We out of here.